Only a fool would allow his enemy to educate his children.
Welcome back, Warriors. It's me, Linda B. Thank you all so much for joining me here today. So today I wanted to share with you another Vince Everett Ellison video. He is talking about how the Democrats use public school education to entrap Americans. We'll get into that. You all give me your comments. It's sure to be a really, really good one, and you will definitely want to stick around to the very end. So before we get started, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Again, watch it all the way to the very end. But without further ado, let's get into it.
The nerve of these Democrats, man, the nerve of these Democrats. So let me tell you what they're doing. For the past 60, 70 years, they've been using public education to destroy America. Now, what they want to do, we've used public education for years to Christianize our children, right? To teach them the ideals and the values of us, the mores and the values of their parents and of their community, but mostly their parents. It worked that way up until Brown versus Board of Education, when they decided that they wanted to use public education to start pressing a government ideology. Now, let us start with this sage advice from Mr. Malcolm X. Malcolm said, only a fool would allow his enemy to educate his children. Let me say that again. Only a fool, gun to your head, a fool will allow his enemy to educate his children.
Think about that. Let that question, that statement sink all the way in. Why would you let someone that hates you educate the very thing that you, or very person or people that you love the most? The public school system has been overran by the Democrat Party. No prayer in schools, inappropriate material, just outright deplorable debauchery being taught in public schools. No prayer, and in some cases, Satan clubs, but nothing about God in the schools. I saw a video. You can go to my channel on Rumble, where this person was saying the Pledge of Allegiance, but took out under God. They just paused on that part. And I couldn't tell if the person was a man or a woman. I really just couldn't tell. It might have been one of those people who, suffer from gender dysphoria. And that's I guess it's a serious thing. So I'm not playing about that, but I really couldn't tell. But they're trying to take God out of everything. And because the whole thing with the civil rights movement, he's probably going to mention it here, is that it taught us to be dependent on the government instead of looking to the Lord. Just let that sink in. The woman being married to the government instead of to the father of her children. So all of it's bad. It may have seemed good at the time because the Dems know how to wrap and package what they want you to go along with. But if you don't do your research, you're going to open that package and it will be something very harmful to you. It's not going to be what you thought.
Pause for effect. Now, what did we do? After slavery, of course, that was segregation down south. That was meanness. That was low downness. Democrats hated black people for many different reasons. They thought we were inferior, The biggest trick they played was not them thinking they were inferior. The worst thing they did was they made us believe it also. Yeah, they made us believe that we were inferior to them. We still compare ourselves to white America in all of these various ways. And it is a sick mindset that we have. But since we're doing it, let's play the game. Let's look at public education. There's this achievement gap that we talk about inside of Black America all the time between black and white people. And the achievement gap is awesome. White children are much better educated than black children. math, sciences, reading, you name it. If you want to compare, let's compare. Now, Asian children and Jewish children and children from India, they are better educated than white children, but we don't compare ourselves to them. We compare ourselves to white children for some reason. But that's where we are, so let's deal with it. So here's the problem. We've integrated, right? Well, here's something that's pretty interesting. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP, a sector of the U.S. Department of Education, 84% of Black students lack proficiency in mathematics, and 85% of Black students lack proficiency in reading skills. 85%. Now, just in case you guys didn't hear me correctly, let me read this to you again. According to the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP, a sector of the U.S. Department of Education. This is the U.S. Department of Education. This ain't me saying this. This ain't some type of conspiracy theory. This is the federal government. It says 84% of Black students lack proficiency in mathematics, and 85% of Black students lack proficiency in reading skills. That means they can't count and they can't read.
Take this back to people who believe the party switched. So back on the plantation, you know, that slave owners did not want the slaves to know how to read. And now today, I'm talking about today in 2024, the Democratic Party never votes for school choice. They always say, no, public schools, we're going to do what we can to improve the public schools, and they never do. And a lot of Black children in predominantly Black areas lack proficiency in math and reading. So he's saying can't count, can't read. So what can you do in life if you can't do those things? You can't do very much. And it can lead to a life of crime because you're not able to get the job, don't have the job skills to adequately get employment, good employment, and can lead a person down this road of poverty and crime. And see, that's what the Democratic Party wants, because right now the Dems are for Black people not knowing how to read, just like they were in the slave days. That's a comparison to let you know the parties did not switch. That's true.
Explain to me how you are going to work in America if you cannot read. Explain to me how you're going to work in America if you cannot count. That means only 15% of our children are proficient in reading and counting. 15 out of 100. And we say it's time to get out of public education and teach and send our children to a private system so that the parents can make sure that the education fits the child, and Democrats say no. Well, I know what you're going to say. I've heard it already. Oh, it's because the white folks get all the money and the Black people don't get no money. If we had the same amount of money that the white folks have, our children would get the same education as the white children. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Here's another fun fact. Average expenditures by race. Overall spending is remarkably similar for white and Black students, despite large racial differences in geography and income. The average Black student attends a district that spends $14,385 per student, while the average white student attends a district that spends $14,263 per student. Again, there's $14,385 for Black students and $14,263 per white student. This is from the School District Expenditures and Race Economic Research, St. Louis Fed. You getting it now? Black students actually get more money than white students do, and 85% of our children cannot read. Lord have mercy. Nevertheless, they fight against school choice. Now, what happened? Well, after the Civil War, of course, we had segregation in the South. White students, on average, were getting 3 times more to be educated than black students. Our facilities and our pay were not as good as white students. So what did we do? I found out something that's very, very interesting. Have any of y'all ever heard of the Rosenwald schools? The Rosenwald schools were schools that were built between 1917 and 1932. They were established by the great Booker T. Washington and a Jewish gentleman by the name of Julius Rosenwald, who was over Sears and Roebuck. Between 1917 and 1932, they built over 5,000 schools down south and educated over 700,000 black students. That's right. A third of black students down south were educated at these Rosenwald schools. Black education in America, listen to me, because I know y'all have heard lies about this. Black education in America before Brown versus Board of Education, even though we got less money, maybe about 2/3 less, was as good as white education. Oh, you don't believe me? You gonna call me a lie? Well, let me read it to you. In my book, Iron Triangle, I talk about the myth of Brown versus Board of Education. And I'm going to read you what the Supreme Court said. Not what I said, what the Supreme Court said. So this is what was going on in Brown. The Supreme Court, well, the NAACP was suing the state of South Carolina and some schools in Topeka, Kansas. They said that the concept of separate but equal was unequal. They proved that these white schools were getting much more than the black schools, because in Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court had ruled that as long as the facilities were equal, they could remain separate. So y'all all heard the concept of separate but equal. So as long as they were equal, they could remain separate. Well, NAACP said they're not equal. That these states are giving black students much less than they're giving white students. That was the case. And then NAACP said, well, we want to integrate. Well, these school systems knew that they were unequal. They knew they were giving black students less. So when they were called on the carpet, they said, ooh, we got to fix this, y'all, because we are not in compliance. And we got to do it quick before they come down with the decision in the Supreme Court. And so they then made all the facilities equal. Over about a 2 or 3 year period of time, they bought black children's school buses. They built the schools. They got them new school books. They made sure that teacher salary was also equal to white teacher salary. Don't believe me? Let me read it to you. Because in Brown versus Board of Education, they talked about it. In the Brown opinion, it said, in the instant cases, the question is directly presented. Here, unlike Sweat versus Painter, which was another case where they proved that the facilities were unequal and that they had to make them equal. Here, unlike Sweat versus Painter, there are findings below that the Negro and white schools involved have been equalized or are being equalized with respect to, listen to this, with respect to buildings, curricula, qualifications, and salaries of teachers and other tangible factors in the Negro and white schools involved in each of the cases. They're being equalized, or they're equal in buildings, curricula, qualifications, and salaries of teachers and other tangible factors in Negro and white schools. So what did they say? Since they are equal in all other aspects, we must look instead to the effect of segregation itself on public education. So that lie y'all been hearing for the last 70 years, the white children wasn't getting what the black children wasn't getting what the white children were getting. We didn't have the buses. We didn't have the school. They were treating us like dogs. That's a lie. Supreme Court said it. They were equalized. In my hometown of Brownsville, Tennessee, my father was going to school during that time, and my mother was too. My mother went to West High School back in the 50s. West High School was built so well, all black schools still standing right now. I think they made it into a police department or something now, down in Madison County, Tennessee. My father's school, Carver High School, named after George Washington Carver, was built and was newer than the white school in Haywood County. They had buses that picked them up and took them to school. My dad will tell you about it. Yes, Carver High School is still standing right now. They've turned it into a Black History Museum. Yes. Built so well in the 1950s, 70 years later, the school still stands. Oh, no. Black folks didn't want that. These are the people that didn't believe that they was nobody unless they sat down and ate and used the bathroom and went to school beside white folks. It made them feel good, you know. So they took them to the Supreme Court. And this is what they said to the Supreme Court. Even though all that stuff is right, even though they are equalized, we want to integrate, not with good Christian white folks who we could, you know, take an opportunity to integrate with. We want to integrate with the Ku Klux Klan. Hear me when I say this, y'all, because I know what y'all going to try to say. I know y'all going to try to lie on me. Vince Ellison say that you're supposed to segregate children on account of race. That's a lie. Segregating people forcibly on account of race is not right. It is wrong. The Brown decision was correct. The decision that says that racism has no place in America is correct. The Brown opinion was incorrect, and let me tell you why. The reason that they said that they wanted to end segregation is a problem. Here's the reason. We come then to the question presented. Does segregation of children in public schools solely on the basis of race, even though the physical facilities and other tangible factors may be equal, they said it again, they may be equal, deprive the children of the minority group equal opportunities? They said, we believe it does. It continued to say, to separate them from others of similar age and qualifications solely because of their race. Now, this is why they say they had to rule in favor of the NAACP. This is why. They say that to separate these black children, this is a quote, generates a feeling of inferiority as to their status in the community that may affect their hearts and minds in a way unlikely ever to be undone. Here's the statement. Segregation of white and colored children in public schools has a detrimental effect upon the colored children. It doesn't have a detrimental effect on the white children. It has a detrimental effect on the colored children to separate colored children from white children. And we celebrate that racist opinion. I am not the only one who feels that way. I know y'all saying, Vince tripping. All right.
What do you all think? Do you feel like, because when he was talking, seriously, I was thinking, okay, they made the facilities equal, the teacher pay equal, the books and everything equal, but I wonder if the teaching itself went down. You know, that's what I was thinking when I was listening to it, because right now, public schools that are predominantly Black typically don't do well. Like he was giving the stats, about 85% of kids don't read or write at grade level, nowhere near. I mean, that is almost all children, 85%. And then a lot of times they are born in one-parent homes. They're not able to function in society because of the lack of reading and math skill. That is setting them up for a hard time down the road and increasing their chances of poverty and getting into trouble. So that's what I was thinking when he was talking about they were making everything equal. I was thinking, I was waiting for the but. And with this, he was talking about the black children. It had a detrimental effect on them. I remember that little doll test, where the black dog, white dog, and everybody thought that the white doll was the pretty doll, the black doll was the ugly doll, and all that kind of stuff. The doll test. I remember that. I just feel like some kind of way, I don't know what he's going to say, but some kind of way, some black people, thankfully I don't, but some black people have this inferiority complex. Not all, and I don't think is even most, have somewhat maybe an inferiority complex, and certainly may have had back then. My family seemed not to have affected us. You all tell me what you feel about that. I just keep thinking about that doll test.
Me and Ibram X. Kendi don't agree on a whole lot of stuff. He wrote about how to be an anti-racist and But he wrote in his book, Stamped from the Beginning. He said Earl Warren essentially offered a racist opinion in this landmark case. Separate black educational facilities were inherently unequal and inferior because black students were not exposed to white students. He said it was a racist statement and black people applauded it. So what happened to the Roswell schools? Well, after Brown versus Board of Education, they started tearing them all down. Schools that were educating black children all over the South, they decided to tear them down. Now, children should not be segregated on account of race, but they should be segregated on account of hate. They should be segregated on account of incompetence. They should be separate. They should be segregated on account of a person that says, I want to kill you. And that's what you had. You had public educational officials telling you that if you send your child to my school, I'm going to either kill him or I'm going to make sure he don't get a good education. They told us that, and we sent them anyway. Where if we had said we want a private system where we can decide where we go to school, all we would have done would have said, here's a school. This school is not segregated by race. We want good black people and good white people to come together, and we want the bad black people and bad white people to take your behind somewhere else. We don't want you nowhere near us. This is a Christian school that's going to teach Christian values. And we want you to come here, and we're going to love one another. We're going to have forbearance to one another. We're going to teach one another. And we're going to have guns so that when the Ku Klux Klan or Black Lives Matter show up, we're going to deal with you. No race baiting, no drugs, no fighting, no hatred. Instead, we got the Supreme Court to say that we're going to send black children to school with folks that did the Little Rock 9 thing, beating them children up, slapping them around, threatening them every day. Ruby Bridges went to school down in New Orleans. One little black girl. All the white children left out of school. And that child had to come to school a whole year by herself sitting in that school. And her mom and daddy sent her to that school and scarred that child for life. And everybody wants to applaud it now. But what good did it do? 85% of black children now can't read. 85% of them also can't do math. But the children before this time, my mother and my father and that generation before was getting some of the best education in the world. HBCUs were educating black children and black scholars all over the world. Well, you wanted to integrate, like I said, not with good white Christians and good black Christians. You want to integrate with George Wallace and the Ku Klux Klan.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm one of those people that love everybody. But if anybody, whether they look like me or not, if they don't want me there, I don't want to be there. Okay, if somebody hates me and they teeth gnashing at me, okay, I'm going to leave you over there. We got to go somewhere else. But it did look like, there was this push, like we have to be with you. And those people did. If you've seen documentary footage of racist white people, not all white people, but the racist ones saying the N word, go home, we don't want to go to school with you, coon, monkey, and all of that stuff, throwing things and spitting on the black kids as they walk into school. That's horrible to put somebody through that. A young person experiencing this, and the cameras are all right there. And that's what that girl Ruby had to go through. I didn't think of it like that when I saw it growing up, seeing these, documentaries. But if you think about it, just imagine a kid having that done to them and go to school by themselves because the parents had that much disdain and hatred in them that they didn't want their children even in the same classroom with that person. Wow.
Why didn't you just save them the problem and just blow your own brains out? Because right now, the black community is in a dystopia. Now, why? Well, after Brown versus Board of Education, this is a trap. They use race to set us up. Because after Brown, they needed an enforcement mechanism to force this federal law upon America. Well, it was a federal judgment. So who had to get involved in education? Oh, you got it. It was the federal government. And just like the great Ronald Reagan said, the scariest sentence in American language is I'm from the federal government and I'm here to help. So what did the feds do? The Fed took this as an opportunity, man. Oh, boy, by 1962, they had run Prayer Out of School by England and Vitale. Oh, Lord, they had drugs in school, sex education in school, you name it. They was putting it all in the schools after that. And in one generation, we went from having the best educational system in the world to, in 1982, Ronald Reagan put out a report that said, a nation in crisis. The whole public education system had been torn asunder. The report said if a foreign nation had forced upon America the educational system that we have today, we would have considered it an act of war. Well, a foreign country did, a foreign entity did. It was called the Democrat Party. A bunch of perverts, liars, psychopaths, and anti-Christian bigots. They took God out of school, put the drag queens in. They took Bible out of school and put pornography in. They took virtue out of schools and put hip hop in. And now, as our children walk around here killing one another, can't even live with them. Everybody's scared. Walking around looking like a bunch of fools fighting and raising hell all the time. Black Lives Matter, George Floyd, you name them. And they're trying to produce George Floyds all over the country. Everywhere you get a bunch of George Floyds, you know what you got? You got a bunch of Democrats. Everywhere you got poverty, hatred. Good God, man. You can't even bring the Ten Commandments in school. What do you have against the Ten Commandments? Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not commit adultery. I can see why you got a problem with that one with being a liberal. Thou shalt not covet. Yeah, well, there it is. That's why you don't want the Ten Commandments, because if people follow the Ten Commandments, they cannot be a Democrat. Why? Democrats want to kill your babies. Democrats want to put LGBTQ and transition your children. Oh, they want to turn your children into sex objects. They want to take them and groom them. Oh, yeah, man. And look, here's something else I better look out for. These pedophiles. Yeah. They kind of call them, they don't want to call them pedophiles. They call them MAPs now, minor attracted persons.
I've heard that. Minor attracted persons. Oh, it's just the P word. Come on. See, that's what was next. Yep. I did an old video on it. Yeah, it's next. It's going to be a protected orientation. Watch. Because that's how far we have gone away from God. That is how far. Oh, how far we have fallen. Oh, the things I think of that they are putting in the school system. Disgusting. Oh, I just pray people, just pray that the right person gets to be the president of the United States and clean this stuff up. The school system needs to be over just revamped entirely, because it was not like that. In 2 generations, maybe 1 generation, you had all kind of mess going on in schools. The federal government. See, that's why a lot of times Republicans are for smaller government. Democrats are for big government, and that never changed either. Again, the parties did not switch.
They're coming. They are working to get the age of consent taken off the books of every state. So you better watch them. They coming. Child pornography is all out there. I'm trying to wake y'all up to who these perverts are. Now, we got one shot of taking this back and one shot taking it back right now. It's tipping point. And it's school choice. School choice comes in vouchers. That means that whatever money goes to you, go to your child, that $14,000 I was talking about, that goes to you, and you decide how that child is educated. Whether you homeschool that child, whether you send that child to a Christian school, whatever. You also can have tax credits. That means whatever money you pay in taxes comes back to you. You can use that for education. You can use scholarships. That means people that give money in a scholarship fund can write it off on taxes. You can take that scholarship money, get your child in education. You can do it like you do a Pell Grant. Well, when your child goes to college, children get Pell Grants. There's 1,000 ways to do it. Why don't they want it? Very simple. The teachers union, the NEA, and the ATF are some of the biggest unions in America. They give tens of millions of dollars a year to the Democrat Party. They give tens of millions of dollars a year, period, but 99% of it goes to the Democrat Party. And they tell the Democratic Party, we do not want competition. We want a monopoly. We want that body, that $14,000. We want the body that follows that $14,000. We don't, and then they tell the Democratic Party, we don't want any standards when it comes to our teachers. If we educate them, fine. If we don't educate them, fine. You can't fire us. You can't do nothing. And the Democrats say, how much money are you going to give us? Well, all the money that they give the Democratic Party in contributions, there it is. Teachers get raises. They pay their dues. Dues go to the Democratic Party. Democratic Party uses it to stay elected. Classic money laundering, y'all. I talk about it well in my book, Crime Inc. You need to get it. Your children are being used as bodies. That's it. Matter of fact, they don't want them educated. An educated man cannot be a slave. They are getting 90% of the black vote in places like Detroit, Memphis, Chicago, LA, all these places. And as long as they're getting 90% of the black vote down there, do you think they're going to try to educate black people any better? So they won't get the black vote anymore? Parents, this is your decision. You have to decide. You have to say, I want my children to have a better life than me. This is always the American dream, to have your children live better than you. You got to love your children more than you hate the Republican Party or the conservatives, because usually it's conservatives that are pushing school choice. You got to stop saying, well, I don't want school choice because these white folks going to take this money and they're going to educate their children, and I don't want them to educate their children. You're holding them down, and you're holding yourself down more. You're going to say that I'm going to hurt myself because I don't want these people to get some money. Just stupid that is. I've proven to you that Brown versus Board of Education had nothing to do with the fact that our schools were raggedy. The fact that we didn't have the same thing that white children had. It's in Brown versus Board of Education if you want to read the opinion for yourself. It tells you they had become equalized. Why did they want it? They wanted to integrate. They wanted to set beside their former white masters because that made them feel good about themselves. Brown says it. Separating black children from white children made black children feel inferior. And this is really going to get you. They got this because Dr. Kenneth Clark, he used a doll test. And he would take a black and a white doll put the doll in front of the children and ask the children questions. So he'd ask a white child, which doll is the good doll? The white child would say, white doll. Which doll is smart doll? White child would say, white doll. Well, they would do the same thing with black children. And the black children would say the white doll was the smartest, the white doll was the good doll, and the black doll was the bad doll, And they said, oops, cause of segregation. Well, Oprah Winfrey did the same test in the 2000s, and the results were the same with the children. You know why? Because black people teach their children to be inferior. The Democratic Party teaches you to be inferior. Malcolm asked the question, who taught you to hate yourself? From the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. Who taught you? Black Democrats taught you that. They're the ones that scream no justice, no peace. Martin Luther King was the one that said, how can I pull myself up by my bootstraps when I'm bootless? Al Sharpton and them saying, get your knee off my neck. No justice, no peace. We poor, we hungry, we can't make it. White supremacy. You've heard me say it before and I'll say it again. No one is superior to me. Why? Because I'm an heir of Jesus Christ. I'm a child of God. White supremacy is like voodoo. You have to believe it for it to have any effect on you. But they teach children systemic racism, white privilege. You've heard me say this also. There is a privilege to be white, but there's also a privilege to be black. It's a privilege to be Asian. It's a privilege to be Hispanic. It's a privilege to be Jewish. They have taught us through public education that we are an inferior people because we are still comparing ourselves to white America. We're still fighting to integrate as opposed to fixing ourselves. We are not supposed to change the other man. We're supposed to change ourselves. And I do not care how many of them love you. If you don't learn to love yourself, it means nothing. 42 murders in Memphis already this year. All of them black on black. 1,200 carjackings. Murder, killing each other. Why? Because they've taught us to hate ourselves. What is the manifestation of it? We're always fighting to get away from each other and integrate with other people because we think that we are too inferior to be around. We hate each other too much to be around. This has to be rectified. And public education and the black Democrats and the Democratic Party taught this to America. They taught white people in the Democratic Party, that they do have some type of privilege over us. Ain't that something?
They do talk about, white privilege on the left. They do talk a lot about white supremacy. Jim Crow Joe recently spoke at Howard University and was saying that the greatest threat to America is white supremacy. Jim Crow Joe said that. I'm like, are you serious? You are like the king. You are the poster child of white supremacy. And Howard had a black school, one of the top ones, good school. But I just was like, why did they have this man? Out of all the people you could have had to come speak, you got a racist. You couldn't find anybody else? It just doesn't make sense to me. I'm not trying to pick on how, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying it does not make sense to me at all.
White folks walking around saying, I got privilege over you. I wish someone would tell me they had privilege over me. I have something to tell them. One did tell me that one time. He said, the black man could get ahead in America if the white man would get his foot off his neck. I looked at the dude and said, look at me and you. Look at me and look at you. You think you put your foot on my neck? We seek pity, not respect. Envy, not admiration. We seek weakness, not power. The only way to fix this, people, is to go back to our Bible, to go back to the teachings of Jesus Christ, where he says you're more than a conqueror, where he says I'm your father and you cannot be inferior to anyone, where he tells you that the fear of God is the beginning of all knowledge, yet they put you in an educational system that tells you that if you even speak his name, they'll put you out. Can a man serve two masters? Can you go to a public educational system that you fund that tells you that you cannot speak God's name and think that you are serving God? No, you have bowed to another master. And that's why your streets are left unto you desolate. So an election is coming up. And you're going to have some of the politicians that are going to say, We support school choice. If you vote for us, we'll give it to you. You're going to have others that say, no, we believe in public education, and if you take money out of the public system, it's going to make the public system worse. You're supposed to say, make it worse. 85% of the children can't read, and 85% can't do math already. Make it worse. You are in control of your own destiny. So if you choose these people, if you've chosen them, you've chosen them. Nobody else has done this to you. You're making a choice right now, and it's going to be all on you.
Yes, it is. All on us. That is so true. We have to make the right decisions. We can't listen to, make it worse. 85%, and in some areas is more than that. It's like 90%, over 90% in some areas where the kids can't read or write or do history or science at grade level. It's even worse than that. He said, well, if you take money, you'll make it worse. People need to get educated. Don't listen to that. You need school choice. You need to be able to get your kids out of those failing schools. You need to, they're factories for problems. And they're promoting perversion, debauchery of all kinds, took God out of the schools. Don't believe the lies. You people that are brainwashed by the Democratic Party. Yes, I said you people. Don't take that the wrong way. People that have been brainwashed by the Democratic Party thinking that, well, I'm still going to vote blue no matter who. That is unintelligent to say that. Because what if the blue is the devil himself? You still going to vote for him? And God has people that that work for him, and the devil has people that work for him. And you got to know the difference. And so we are, those of us who are believers are children of God. We are overcomers. We're the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. No one's better than anybody else. Period. I'm not inferior. No one else is superior to me. We're all the same. We're one race, the human race. And that's it. Well, you all be blessed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Thank you all so much for those 20,000 subscribers. It really means a lot to me, on my way to 30,000 by the end of May. Well, as I always say, march on, warriors.